So obviously, I'm taking a much broader view of this, that some might even see as esoteric. Some might see it more as an overall encapsulating scientific view in a very, abstract way. Obviously, because we're pulling from several different disparate methods, scientific methods, esoteric, informational, historical methodology. But that is to say that the targeted individual, and this will be the final one, but this is a captivating subject, especially when you begin to see and recall how you've either always been a targeted individual or that you have for some reason been granted favor. And as you get older, you may be looking at it going, why did I get all these breaks? Or why was I always stopped, right? And we tend to personalize instead of, and that's the whole point to all this, instead of looking at the totality or the entirety of a mechanistic planned operation to say, why would this take place? Well, in other words, when you no longer think that you're special, you no longer believe what mommy and daddy told you, right? Or out of insecurity, because you felt so small and degraded, you ran off and you postured yourself, or you put on this, or in this paracosm, this alternate reality of yourself. Well, advanced through the years, you survived, you learned how to balance out the energies within your own system, within your own body, perhaps, or maybe the system just sort of allowed you to stream along like a backdraft, right? To where you really have to come to terms with yourself, like, I'm not special. My bones, my muscle, my faculties, my mental faculties, my mind, my shit stinks worse than ever. I got wrinkly skin. I thought I was really something special, and this idea was ingrained in me, but that wasn't even enough. It was cymatically distributed and targeted into me to where I really was supported to believe that I was something very unique, not just some sort of narcissistic, but maybe this is the root to narcissism, right? And when you back up and you look at the macro view of the totality, you see how it's to create, when we talk about variance or invariance or perturbations, to create an unequal, asymmetrical distribution through the shared operation of an environmental energy system, i.e. the world, the planetary body, the solar system, and then the localized spheres that are becoming much more pronounced, right? Almost like electromagnetic sanction points or prison networking systems, right? That we are getting better and better at seeing, not only just through UV and infrared, but looking at the entirety of the light spectrum and going, holy shit, we're looking at the sun with this technology, but have we actually looked at ourselves through these satellite systems? And I would argue to say yes, but that the very powers that are viewing this and are able to look at the internal workings of your spirituality or your energy system, or how this whole Hammer-Off Penrose aromatic amino acid meets Jack Cruz light, inner light, a Zeitgeber, you could say is an informational technology or a language model, right? However you want to sort of deduce this, can in fact be seen. Right? It gets into the diacinine goggles that are talked about through folklore that lead back to Vietnam. I think Cliff High is much bullshit that comes out of that guy's mouth, right? And talking about people who have favor, right? People who have favor and are sort of bullshitting their way along, never really contributed anything to anyone, but have sort of lived in this fringe environmental aspect where you could argue to say that these people would admittedly say that they have nothing unique that they've offered, but like Hollywood, like Slavoj Zizek's view on, his portrayal on cinema, Pervert's Guide to Cinema, to really look at this and going, these aren't just indoctrination tools, these are inferences of areas of unequal treatment, where we're looking at this person that society sees as having these gifts, from actors to entertainers, and it's like, when you really have you ever stopped and looked at, I'm annoyed by this person. This person's in every damn movie I'm watching. They're intentionally put there. I don't think that their acting skills are on a higher level. I don't think that their presence is on a higher level. Why the fuck are they even there? Right? You could say, oh, they kissed up in Hollywood and this and that. But my whole point is that these patterns and this pattern distribution is happening on a scalable level, that the individual that doesn't have access to this technology is being forced to see that once technologies are being used in the field, you could say it's like this 100 monkey type of a syndrome sort of thing going on, but sort of, kind of, not really, where information that enters the field, there may be technologies that keep this dispersal from happening globally, but eventually it's going to seep through and it will happen, right? And that's why we still turn to esotericism, we still turn to metaphysics, we still turn toward fringe methodologies, because only in the calmness, right? And this is the whole point, is that their entire posturing says that if we stretch this rubber band out enough, that's you, that's me, that's every targeted individual, it will never be able to return back to its origin or its original place. And when you do return back, you've disproved the entire notional aspect, yet the axis of power through this unequal distribution continues on, right? There has to be some sort of universal principle-based reversion towards subset that says, no, you lost, you fucked up over and over again, and there's no way that. So then you start to see how wars take place, factions and sanctions, they scramble around, it gets really sloppy. They're no longer supported by the arbitrary system at play, that is the computational system, because the computational system has now lost all of its in other words, you see AI becoming more PC every single day. I don't know if you notice that. And it doesn't even really understand politically correctness outside the specter of open source information. So in other words, whatever's filtered through and ends up on the internet is the plaything of the AI. But in order for the AI, ironically, to come to any sort of conclusive informational, beneficial informational distribution for academic papers or anything else, it has to have some sort of principle understanding, right? So this becomes the large language model dilemma that we're faced with all the time. And I don't know, you see it over and over again, and there seems to be a deferment. Whatever methods are being used, it's like all the engines are out, the plane's going down. Somehow, what are you going to do? Use time travel to create a landing strip there, or an interdimensional gateway or something like that, to make sure that the whole thing doesn't fall apart. There has to be some cataclysmic end to anti-principle or an unprincipled methodology, right? And I'm not talking about the presence of God. We know now that there is no God. There never has been a God, and that the idea of it has been used against us. We know that when the word angel or angles are being used, that it's just an inside, almost Pizzagate type term, right? where they're making fun of and laughing at us, and there is no supremacy there with these people, right? So we know that they've gotten way too comfortable and feel that they are too special, and this pernicious malevolence that they can only claim as their only superpower, this rancor narcissism. There's no way that would be able to go on over a long portion of time like it has. It doesn't make sense with any sort of computational system that requires first principles and the completion of computational methodologies like the Bloch spheres, the non-Euclidean spherical mathematics. It has to reach some sort of Leibniz convex, concave wholeness in itself. It can't just keep producing faulty units constantly over and over. They're filled. In other words, the system has to be honest that it's using anti-principles, and that this whole sort of chiral switcheroo has occurred where anti-principles or principles are being hailed as first or pure principles, right? In other words, the mathematics, you can't produce something that is of a geometrical rendering of like a Metatron's cube where it has continuity. It's an integer. It has order. You can't say that something like an inverted pentagram has that sort of resonant positivity or communal order. It's impossible. So whatever the fuck is running the system, it's amazing that it's still going on today. Like the only way that could happen is through a computational system where we're working on this very short strand of sort of Nietzschean flat time where there's just a skipping occurring over and over and over again. And so the targeted individuals are everything. And that's the way I see it. And that's the way EPL posits and postures itself as its own entity that I right, this pure principle informational that you won't find anywhere else, right? Informational hub, EPL esoteric principles of life.blogspot.com, to say that the individual at war and campaigning and saying, no, this is who I am. And no matter how much perversion or corruption you've cast upon me or the lies that you've said about me, I am going to amplify, emanate, and be myself more than ever. And I do believe that is the war that's really taking place. And I think that is brought to the targeted individual, and to purify and clean yourself up, but not allow yourself to not see what's happening to you and unleash that power. They would call it justification, but you've taken all information and you've seen that they're going to treat you the same way over and over again. And it's always you're going to end up with the shitty side of the stick every fucking time, right? Is that you don't need to justify it. You just need to react without doubting yourself. And I think that's the main message that goes out to all targeted individuals. And you know who you are, is stop doubting yourself and use that energy. Go back to the first principles.